Welcome to the Fright Lab. I'm Lucas Yoakum. It is the 25th entry into our 31 for 31 challenge. That's 31 days of horror, 31 days of Halloween, whatever the kids are calling it these days. We appreciate you guys listening to this many episodes. You know, you hit a rhythm when you do something long enough. The first few movies were like, yeah, I can handle this. Then by about movie 5, 6, I was like, ooh, boy, I've got a lot of days ahead of me this month. By the 15th, I was just going like, yeah, I got it. And now it's just kind of a blur. I'm told it's like running a marathon. After a while, you just fall into a rhythm. That or you blow out your knees, one of the two. So tonight, we are talking about a movie that is worth seeing, but I'm going to put an asterisk behind it. And that is 2019's The Beach House. Yes, this is another horror movie that takes place on the ocean. No, I did not intend to watch 3 movies based on the horrors of the ocean. 4 if you count Last Voyage of the Demeter, I guess. I hadn't taken that into account. So this wasn't really a theme, but it's an accidental theme that's emerged. So what is The Beach House about? Well, a young couple who's been going through some mostly unspecified problems, maybe their relationship's a little more rocky, have decided to decamp to a beach house owned by the boyfriend of the couple to maybe try to reignite those flames of love. Well, they discover that the beach house has some other guests, but it'll be fine. They'll work it out. And one night, while having dinner, some real bad stuff happens. And they learn that the ocean is not our friend. And if it wants us dead, well, you get the idea. So, what is The Beach House as a film, though, beyond its plot? It's kind of, it feels a little gothic-y. It kind of feels a little haunted, even though it's not expressly a haunted house film. And it's kind of an eco-terror kind of film, which, you know, has to do with the threats of pollution and things like that. Or I think maybe you could say a movie like Jaws is kind of an eco-horror. It's the horror of the natural world. And it's a little body horror-y. I feel like the body horror in it is pretty effective, but we'll get to that in a minute. Eco-horror is really hard to pull off as a sub-genre of horror, right? Because, yeah, eco-horrors can be monster movies, but not all monster movies are eco-horrors, right? And eco-horror can definitely be body horror, but not all body horror is eco-horror. You get what I'm saying here. So this movie is swinging big at a lot of stuff, and I've got to level with you. I don't think it's hitting all of its marks. The acting, it's a little hit or miss. I really like the main actress. She's great. But the rest of the cast is kind of spotty, we'll say. There's not enough time spent developing the characters for me to care that these things are happening to them necessarily. And that's a problem. And I've seen a couple of reviews of this film that say that it has a hard time getting out of first gear. You know, it never really gets out of the second act. And yeah, I kind of agree with that. I don't think that's wrong. But here's the thing. You can say that this movie is a lot of fun and it's interesting and it's visually cool. All things that I think is absolutely correct. But it is not a great film. And here again, I am not a person who believes that every piece of cinema needs to be an absolute achievement, but it needs to have certain things for me to really say, oh, unquestionably, you should watch this. The movie to me feels almost half finished. And it's one of those things where those elements of body horror that I was talking about, they pop up, and when they do, they're they're incredible. If you are like me and you find the ocean to be just vaguely sort of terrifying, go back and listen to our episode about underwater, and you'll know what I mean. I find the ocean to be just terrifying, and I find most sea creatures to be especially just gross and upsetting. There's a sequence kind of at the beginning of the second act where there's a bunch of Portuguese men of war that you see, which, you know, ocean animal fans will know what I'm talking about, but there's something very, very wrong with these, and it is so gross and so upsetting. I love that stuff, but that kind of, that feeling does not pervade the entire movie. I will say that from that point onwards into the second half of the film, it is deeply, deeply disturbing stuff. It's very, very spooky. It's very gross and scary. And there's a couple of scenes kind of early on where the atmosphere is so almost ethereal, except that it's terrifying. It's a little Argento-esque in 1 or 2 minutes, but here again, this movie, it's not sure what it's doing. It kind of has an identity crisis. So I've been thinking about this movie in the context of other films. Now, you guys have heard me talk about this idea of terrestrial horror. I use like Godzilla as an example of that. Think cosmic horror, but it's totally earthbound. I don't know that I would call this movie necessarily terrestrial horror. And now, if you put this against movies like The Bay, which I've discussed during this month, or Underwater, which we discussed previously, this with like a movie like Off Season, it's horror, yes, unquestionably, and it is horror based around the ocean. Is oceanic horror a thing? I mean, if you're like me and you find the ocean to be especially just kind of gross and weird and terrifying, it is very definitely a thing, but I don't know that it's a genre unto itself, right? A movie like Stuart Gordon's Dagon, it is Lovecraftian because it is rooted in a bunch of Lovecraft stories, granted. The ocean plays a big part in it, no doubt, but I wouldn't call that oceanic horror, right? Or Jaws. Jaws is definitely in the ocean, but I don't know that I'd call Jaws oceanic horror, which is very weird. I mean, he's certainly not fish tank horror, right? I don't know. I'm very stuck on this idea. And part of that is just my desire to constantly kind of tie everything together in this neat bow. But that's not really something you can do here. So as I'm thinking about this film and as I was watching it, it occurs to me that part of the problem is that sometimes atmosphere is enough to make a horror movie. I mean, if you think about, I don't know, a very, very different film, but an example I'll use is like The Tomb of Ligeia, the old Vincent Price movie. It is just absolutely bathed in the atmosphere. I mean, yeah, it's Vincent Price. You like it or you don't. And you appreciate that era of filmmaking and that level of detail of filmmaking. But if you don't like it, you don't like it. But you have to admit that the atmosphere of a movie like that carries it forward. Not something that definitely not something that every Roger Corman movie could do. That's for absolutely sure. I love you, Uncle Roger. Rest in peace. But, not every film he made was so effective. But a movie like Tomb of Ligeia is very effective, right? So the beach house is trying to be super atmospheric, and it doesn't understand that no amount of fog machine you pump into your neighborhood is going to give you the Silent Hill vibe if you're not doing some Silent Hill stuff, right? I don't know. The Beach House is a movie I'm glad I added to my watch list. It's something I had watched like a year ago and I enjoyed it. And then rewatching it, it's like, oh yeah, these are the exact same criticisms I had of it. Not every movie on a list of like what's actually like 37 horror movies on my list, just because I like to have some alternative options. Not all of them are going to be absolutely mind-blowing. Not all of them are going to change the game for you. But it is fun, and it is something that I hadn't had enough of this Halloween season, and that's just goopy, gross, awful fun. And so, yeah, The Beach House. Should you watch it? Nah. It is not necessary watching. It's fun, and if you do add it to your list, if this is kind of your bag, I think you'll have fun with it. If you like your horror, especially very, very salt briny, if you like your horror to have a bit of salinity to it, this will do it for you. But otherwise, you can skip this one. I'm pretty happy I watched it, and it makes me want to know, what do you guys think? The Beach House? Are you going to watch it anyway? Are you going to do the right thing and not listen to me and watch it? Or are you going to pass on this? Do you prefer a drier sort of horror during your Halloween season? You can let us know by reaching out to us at thefrightlabpodcast@gmail.com. We can also be found on YouTube, on basically every podcast platform. We can be found on Discord and, for our sins, social media. Just look for The Fright Lab. We'll be there. And so, guys, it's time for me to let you go so you can go watch some horror movies tonight. I know you've got a little bit of time left this season to fit a few more in. So as you're doing that, and as you're cutting yourself up some Halloween Rice Krispie treats or those weird sugar cookies that have like ghosts and pumpkins on them, as you're getting some of those ready to watch a movie, remember your old friends, specifically us here at the Fright Lab. And that's me, Lucas Yoakum. I write and research this whole ordeal. And Joseph Wren has decided, for some reason, to keep editing and co-hosting and producing this thing into a meaningful shape. And we appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll talk to you all again very soon. Have a fun Halloween season.